I don't think there's any more doubt. Both Josh Barr and Tyler Kasak should be the starters going forward.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Final takeaways from the Army Black Knight Invitational, talking about Josh Barr, Tyler Kasak, what the future holds for Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran. Do they have a future at Penn State? Also, what else impressed me from Penn State wrestling at the Black Knight Invitational? Let me know your takeaways, your thoughts, your reactions to the Army Black Knight Invitational as well down in the comments section. Be a part of this conversation. So let's start with Josh Barr and Tyler Kasak, beginning with Barr first. Barr's the guy at 197. And there's no doubt about it across the board. And how could he not be the starter at 197? Two major decisions over both Connor Mirasula and Lucas Cochran is as impressive as it gets. And only 1 point allowed between both of those matches. So showing off the defensive ability. Now, if these matches were close, if they were within a few points, maybe it's a different conversation and you can still have the debate. Okay, should it be Lucas Cochran? Should it be Josh Barr? But there is no doubt in my mind here. Barr made the statement to be the starter. And he looks every bit as one of the best wrestlers at 197. And it's because of his defense that I've mentioned and his riding ability. That goes a long way. But it's also the fact that Barr is able to use that defense and convert it into offense. Because those scores for Barr, 11-0 shutout against Mirasula, and then 10-1 against Cochran, just the 1 point from the escape in those major decisions. Those are elite teammates. There's an argument to be made that Connor Mirasula could start anywhere else in the country, maybe one or two other different programs that he wouldn't, and the same thing for Lucas Cochran. There's probably 2 to 3 programs max where he would not start in this case, and Penn State being one of them as well. But Barr looking the part of not only being the starter at 197 for Penn State, not just being, oh, he's a fringe All-American. No, this is a guy that can contend for the NCAA title. I know AJ Ferrari is there. This is a loaded 197-pound weight class, but I don't look at this and say, oh, Josh Barr he's on the top 10. He's on the outside looking in when it comes to the championship. If Josh Barr is doing this now, which I have pointed out, if he's able to succeed like this now, he's going to only be able to stack these performances. Better days of wrestling are ahead for him. He's just a redshirt freshman. It's different when you're a redshirt junior and a redshirt senior. You kind of peak at this point. But Josh Barr, there's only better wrestling for him ahead in the future, and that could come sooner rather than later. Looking at the specific matchup between Barr and Cochran, I mean, the 10-1 result, he nearly pinned Lucas Cochran. And this was supposedly close, that it was a toss-up for the 197-pound spot for this open competition. I am utterly impressed with Josh Barr here. So unless there's something we don't know, Lucas Cochran is dominating behind the scenes, which is extremely unlikely. But Barr has to be the guy at 197, especially with this result in an actual tournament where these are results. This is outside of the mat room where iron sharpens iron. No, this is an actual tangible result at a tournament where they had to wrestle all day to get to that point. And Barr dominated. That's what the postseason is. You have to be able to wrestle a string of matches throughout and still maintain your composure, your energy, and go the distance. And that's what Barr proved here. Now on to Tyler Kasak. Tyler Kasak is not redshirting, and this had to do with before the fact that he defeated Alex Facundo in that 157-pound championship. So Tyler Kasak did not have the ability to redshirt based on what Penn State decided to do, and that was he wrestled attached. He did not wrestle unattached at the Black Knight Open. So Tyler Kasak had a clear plan in place from the coaching staff even prior to meeting Alex Facundo in the final. So Kasak needs to be the starter here as well. He's earned that starting spot. Kasak wrestling attached The coaches obviously knew something here. They knew something. And then Kasak went on to defeat Facundo 5-2. It was clear control for most of the match, had the early takedown, gave up a couple escapes, but was able to fend off Facundo from trying to come back and just looked like the stronger wrestler overall. Kasak had 1 minute and 14 seconds in riding time. So it was clearly his match from start to finish. And Kasak has to be the starter after all of this. Cael very well knew what he was doing. And the coaching staff very well knew what they were doing by having Kasak wrestle attached, meaning that he is foregoing the redshirt opportunity here. So what that tells me, the coaching staff looked at this and said, Kasak is presumed to be the starter unless Facundo comes back and says otherwise. Because why would you risk the opportunity at a tournament like this, at a tournament like the Black Knight Invitational, which Rutgers and Michigan State are included in this as well. So there is good competition here across the board. However, this wasn't a Big Ten dual meet. This wasn't a conference dual meet where the consequences are much higher from the team perspective here. So why would you risk the potential of Kasak redshirting in an event like this? Because all it takes is one match and the redshirt opportunity is gone. So the coaching staff and Cael Sanderson very well knew what they were doing, taking the risk that, okay, we assume that Kasak is going to claim the starting spot here with the performance, and Kasak proved the coaches right with their risk. He delivered. And not only that, let's look back, 2 weeks ago, where Kasak defeated a top 5 opponent that he is unfamiliar with in Peyton Keller of Ohio at the NWCA All-Star Classic. Was it a dominant victory? No, but it was a convincing one. This was somebody that was supposed to redshirt at 141 pounds. An injury to Shane Van Ness opened up the door for him to go compete at 149, taking 3rd place, and now continues to capitalize on that momentum and just build and build and build. And he kept that momentum with a win over Facundo in this Black Knight Invitational. So where does this leave Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran? I have kind of a harsh take on this, which I'll tell you more about on the other side of this break. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. You got to download the Gametime app because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks, and that makes getting tickets to your favorite team, to see your favorite teams play live, even easier than before. Gametime Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on incredible seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. You can go to the Gametime app, or you can go to gametime.co in your browser, and let's look at Penn State wrestling tickets when they host the Wyoming Cowboys at Rec Hall December 15th. So a little bit in advance, but all the top deals are sorted for me on Gametime. They have a super deal and all-in pricing, so no surprise fees at checkout. Section S5L, row 6, $73 a piece. Again, all-in pricing. If you're just looking for the lowest price for Penn State wrestling tickets for Penn State versus Wyoming. Section W3U, row F, $51 a piece, all-in pricing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And today's episode is also brought to you by Team Ticker. Team Ticker is the one-of-a-kind sports sign for college sports fans. And if you're watching this episode, that right there to my left is a Team Ticker sign. It is a combination of design and function that gives you an entertaining, creative way to display your team pride while providing a unique connection to your favorite team. The Penn State Nittany Lions, for example. So whether it's football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, soccer, or softball, Team Ticker has got you covered. You'll never miss a game again, as the high-tech retro display provides a countdown to the next big game, as well as daily updates on the latest team news, stats, schedules, standings, and much more. Team Ticker is the ultimate addition to your Nittany Lions sports collection, and once you hang it on the wall, it is going to be the talk of all your fellow Penn State fans. If you're looking for that one eye-catching item to showcase your team pride, or a gift for that special Nittany Lions fan, go to teamticker.com and pick up your Team Ticker today. Team Ticker is the one-of-a-kind sports sign, and right now they are running a $50 off holiday sale. So just go to teamticker.com, take advantage of that holiday sale now, and you'll get $50 off your team ticker purchase. So here is the bottom line when it comes to Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran. I personally do not see a future for them in this Penn State wrestling lineup after this season. And that is a harsh take, but let's look at it objectively, because as talented as Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran are, there is not a path for them to get back into the starting lineup. This is in regard to being a collegiate folk style wrestler, of course. To be a part of the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, train in freestyle and international competitions, that is different. But if they want a path back into the Penn State the collegiate wrestling lineup, there is not a realistic path for them unless granted injury or something else. So where do either of them go in a year or 2 years' time? Let's start with Facundo, because Facundo is now blocked at 157 by Tyler Kasak for this season, Kasak's junior and senior year. So that's the next 3 years that Kasak is the assumed starter at 157. Same thing with Mitchell Messenbrink, multiple years. Levi Haynes at 174. He's blocked at all 3 of those spots, and none of those spots will be vacated until at least after the postseason in 2026. So March 2026, when Levi Haynes is a senior. Cochran is blocked at 197 by Barr this season, and maybe next season too, if Barr does not go back down to 184. We don't ultimately know what the plan is. So, but let's say that Josh Barr does move back down to 184, because then what? So Lucas Cochran can wait a season. He waits a season. He's already used his red shirt. I want to point that out. Both Facundo has used his red shirt and his Olympic red shirt. Cochran has used his regular collegiate red shirt to this point. Let's say that Barr does go back to 184, because that was his spot, and then Carter Starachi took that spot. He is the better wrestler, and then that bumped Barr up to 197, where he has taken over. But then if you're Lucas Cochran, okay, so Barr's down at 84, with Starachi being gone, then you get into an open competition again at 197 with a developed Connor Mirasula, or do you try your hand at heavyweight and go up and compete with his twin brother, Cole Mirasula, after Greg Kurtfleet is gone? My point being is that if you're Lucas Cochran, do you really want to get into another open competition where you don't have a guaranteed spot either at 197 or heavyweight? And the reason I mention heavyweight is because he has wrestled there, he has competed there, he has won there, sacrificing a lot of weight. What if he trains there year round? What if he adds the additional weight and becomes an active competitor at heavyweight? It is an option, but it's not a guarantee. And I know none of these spots in the Penn State starting lineup are a guarantee. But my point is that, okay, Levi Haynes has security. Mitchell Messenbrink has security. Carter Starachi has security. And I know that they are on a different level. I'm not acknowledging that, right? But if you're Lucas Cochran, to get into another battle where you don't have security, when the transfer portal exists, you have eligibility. Why waste it? Again, I don't know what their personal plans are. And they could transfer, but do you notice how Penn State doesn't have that problem? In the era of the transfer portal, with all of this competition, with all of this talent, do you notice that the Penn State wrestlers and competitors that are displaced because there are only 10 starting spots? It's not like football, basketball, or any sport. Yes, you have depth. You need depth in wrestling. But my point being is the fact that you can go start somewhere else and there's only 10 spots. You have that opportunity, but Penn State doesn't seem to have that problem where there is an influx of talent that constantly leaves because they don't make one of the top 10 spots. So I don't know what their plans are personally. They can remain, they can train and be a part of the Nittany Lion wrestling room. It just won't be in the starting lineup for this college team unless something unforeseen happens. Because both these guys are talented. Both these guys are extremely talented. But we can be honest in saying now that Josh Barr and Tyler Kasak get Penn State closer to an individual title at 197 and 157 respectively. And it is not to say that Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran could not contend and win tough matches in those conference dual meets and even in the postseason, because they can, but we're talking about who gets them closer. Josh Barr and Tyler Kasak get Penn State closer than an Alex Facundo and a Lucas Cochran. So this leaves them in an awkward spot. There are only 10 starting spots, as I've mentioned. Everybody knows that. And you can't compete at NCAAs in the Big Ten tournament unattached. Now, that would be something, right, if you could, but you can't. They will be valuable depth for the time being, and you never know. This is a wooden desk. I just want to knock on wood because I don't want to see anybody lose an opportunity here due to injury or gain an opportunity because somebody gets hurt. However, Kasak did get that opportunity with that injury to Shane Van Ness. And don't get me wrong, Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran can still compete and can still win, and they will wrestle this season. They're not just going to disappear because Tyler Kasak and Josh Barr are named the starters. They can compete in those conference dual meets, but obviously not in the postseason. So that's where things stand with Alex Facundo and Lucas Cochran right now. I unfortunately do not see a future for them in the starting lineup for Penn State's team going forward. Let's wrap up with some other final takeaways about the Army Black Knight Invitational. The freshmen impressed. And most importantly, it feels like it's long overdue. You had Braden Davis, now you have Luke Lilledahl, but 125 pounds is no longer a question mark, and it is just refreshing to see. We'll talk about it more on the other side of this break. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and you will get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get that hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And all of this is on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And let's look at the lines for Penn State football versus Maryland. The Nittany Lions hosting the Terrapins. They are a 24.5-point favorite on the spread, minus 4,000 on the money line for Penn State, plus 1,400 on the money line for Maryland. The total is set at 50.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com. And remember, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's just nice to see that 125 pounds is no longer a question mark for this Penn State starting lineup. And Luke Lilledahl to come in. Not that there was any doubt. Not that there was any doubt that Luke Lilledahl wouldn't come in and anchor down this spot. But I want to point out the fact, again, it seems forgotten in this case, but prior to Braden Davis for the 23-24 season, 125 was a liability. Everybody just said, oh, that's the punt weight. Penn State's just going to punt at 125. And now it is an asset. It is a strength. And it's more than that. Luke Lilledahl is a title contender at 125. And you look at the results from the Black Knight Invitational. Tech Fall, opening opponent. Then in the semifinal against Kurt McHenry, someone he knows well, but someone who knows him well, who knows Lilledahl well. 8-2 decision, decisive. And then to go up against the number 21 wrestler at 125 pounds and Charlie Farmer of Army and to win by tech fall 19-4. Luke Lilledahl, kind of similar to Josh Barr. You're having these results now. You are only going to get better as the season progresses. So Luke Lilledahl will hit his stride by the time the postseason rolls around and should be right in the thick of the conversation to be a national title contender at 125. Other true freshmen, Connor Mirasola needs time to develop. I might have been, I was over ambitious to say, hey, Connor Mirasola can come in, contend for the starting spot, and be a guy that's going to be a multi-year champion. But it is also, now that can still happen. He can be a multi-time champion. But Mirasola, he needs time to develop. Mirasola's great offensively, and that's crazy to think because Josh Barr shut him out in their respective matchup. Mirasola's great offensively, which is why he's such a force in freestyle. His best advantage is being on his feet. But defense, countering on bottom, right outs, just not his strong suit right now and really needs to get better at that. I still like what I saw personally out of Connor Mirasola, and we'll get to his twin brother as well. But he had a major decision. He pinned his opponent in the first two matches. Round one, major decision, win by pin in the quarterfinals, and then ended up winning by decision to take third place. So it's not like he had a bad performance just because his match against Josh Barr was so decisive in favor of Barr. But Mirasula, if he wants to be at a top elite level and contend for national championships, he will need that redshirt season. And that is the right observation here. I want to go to Zach Ryder and then go back to Cole Mirasula, his twin brother. So Zach Ryder would be top 20 right now at 184 if he needed to be thrusted into the lineup. So Connor Mirasula needs that time to develop. So does Zach Ryder, but Ryder, it's just the quality of talent here from these true freshmen, and Penn State has the luxury, if you will, to be able to redshirt these wrestlers, these athletes here. Ryder knocked off number 21 wrestler Brian Saldano of Rutgers, and obviously that speaks for itself. That's impressive, to say the least. And then Ryder gives Penn State an interesting decision. Now I'm looking way into the future here, but Ryder gives Penn State an interesting decision at 184 next season. If his redshirt campaign goes well, he develops properly, do you make him the starter at 184, and does Josh Barr stay at 197? It just offers some flexibility for next season's lineup. So Barr could end up staying at 197. We'll see how this season goes. But Barr's natural weight is 84, but maybe he finds a home at 197, and then Ryder reassures 184 with Carter Starachi moving on. Okay, so now let's go back to the other of the Mirasula twins, Cole Mirasula. Cole Mirasula, same thing. He's adjusting to heavyweight well. And this is a little different because he was competing around, 97 kilos, okay, give or take. But it's not, when you're wrestling guys who could be, almost 285 pounds. We know that Greg Kirkleet, for example, is wrestling around 240, 245, but that's still a significant amount of weight. In the case of Connor Mirasula, he's been wrestling around 195 pounds his entire high school career, and then gets to settle in at 197. There is an adjustment to go from 205 to 210 to putting on, right, that's just logically speaking, putting on 25, 30 pounds. And Cole Mirasula is adjusting well. The results speak for themselves. Quarterfinals, tech fall in a matter of 3.5 minutes. And then semifinal, winning by fall in 30 seconds. So you pin your opponent in just a little over 30 seconds in the semifinal. And no contest in the final because Greg Kirkleet and Cole Mirasula. And I get that about Penn State. I get that they did that. What do you need to see? You already see those competitors wrestle against each other in the mat room here. So there was no need for the championship bouts at those respective weights where you had a Penn State wrestler versus another one outside of Facundo and Kasak and Cochran and Barr. One other thing that I want to point out that's a significant point of emphasis here. 133 pounds. Penn State needs to get healthy ASAP with Braden Davis and or Aaron Nagao. Depth is important, so if you can get both of them, great. If you can get at least one of them back, I think Penn State would be content. But fortunately for Penn State and Cael Sanderson, both of those guys can rest and recover for at least another month if need be. Let's talk about the results here and why I say this. So Gary Steen, Kyson Garcia, Tim Levine, unfortunately, are not the answer at 133 without Braden Davis or Aaron Nagao. Now, I do like what I saw out of Garcia. Garcia showed in his personal development, major decision against Gary Steen. Props to Garcia. In that same breath, Steen did struggle on Sunday at the Black Knight Invitational, and Levine was the best of the bunch, truly, objectively, because he took 5th place and beat Garcia in sudden victory. However, none of those guys, I don't know how they would hold up in Big Ten dual meets. They might win a match here and there, do well in some out-of-conference dual meets too, but I don't know that they are the answer for Penn State if Davis and Nagao are unavailable. We know Davis is the starter. We know Davis is the starter at 133, and even Nagao gives you an all-American presence. He was that at Minnesota. And he was close to being that at 133 a season ago because when healthy, he is more than just a fringe top 10 guy. Even if he has all of these unlucky breaks, I think people are forgetting just how talented Aaron Nagao is. He just hasn't had a lot of luck since getting to Penn State in terms of staying healthy. We also know that Davis's injury is short term. Nagao is still recovering. Penn State at least has an optimistic outlook for the time being here. And it was business as usual across the board for everybody else. Bo Bartlett, Shane Van Ness, Mitchell Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, Carter Starachi, Greg Kirkfleet, all those guys dominated, as they should. They either made their way to the championship, won a championship, or had the no contest with meeting another Penn State teammate. This was easy mode for them. That's all it was. It was wrestling on easy mode, and it was a great way to stay loose and refine technique against some outside competition. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. A lot to unpack there from the Black Knight Invitational, but I think a good conversation around the starting lineup and what Penn State has available going forward. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Be a part of the conversation. If you're not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams, including Penn State Wrestling. And again, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you for making us your first listen and watch every single day. Now, for your second listen and watch, you got to check out Locked On Big Ten, the conference show devoted to the Big Ten Conference. Hosted by Craig Sheeman, he puts the Big Ten first when everyone else, frankly, overlooks it. You can find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.